When I look at the stories that I got wrong during the COVID era, right, and mostly culture war related stories, it's because the media intentionally, and I'm going to say intentionally, omitted incredibly important details of those various controversial stories. The Kyle Rittenhouse story, perfect example of that. I got that story wrong because I relied on corporate media. And look, I have to hold myself accountable, so I'm not saying that to place blame or transfer the blame onto others. I should have done my due diligence and I should have gone out of my way to read from reporters that might have a different perspective. I didn't do that. And now I've learned to really go out of my way to understand the arguments made on all sides.
Patrick Bet-David is tired of the woke nonsense going on, and so is Ana Kasparian, although Ana Kasparian is definitely not as far along as Patrick Bet-David is when it comes to combating the woke nonsense out there. Ana Kasparian has done a pretty good job recently. And in this video here, Patrick Bet-David basically forces Ana Kasparian to admit that she's been wrong on a lot of things when it comes to being brainwashed by the media. She is actually coming to the conclusion that she has been brainwashed, and she's going back and reviewing everything that she has said, and as a result of that brainwashing, which is a huge step because most people in Ana Kasparian's position, this is not exclusive to politics, by the way, this is a human thing. Whenever you're confronted with the fact that you have been brainwashed, you have been lied to from a young age, normally most humans out there would say, oh no, that's not true, because they want to continue living that comfortable lie rather than confront the comfortable truth or the uncomfortable truth. Ana Kasparian is actually willing to step out and say, I am willing to confront this uncomfortable truth, even though it is very uncomfortable, number one. And number two, she has made her money off of echoing these comfortable lies. So it is a very noble thing for Ana Kasparian to do. Not saying she's completely red-pilled, not saying she's completely, stepping outside the brainwashing, but she's definitely taking a big step. And Patrick Bet-David is kind of helping her along by forcing her to admit these things. Let's check this out.
Plummets to historic low. Okay, so this is an Axios story. Americans' trust in media has fallen to historic low. According to new polling from Gallup, trust in media has previously dropped to 32% in 2016 before rebounding slightly. Those gains have essentially been wiped out according to the poll. Only 32% of the population reports having a great deal or a fair amount of confidence that the media reports the news in full, fair, and accurate way. The only other time in recent history that trust had fallen to 32% was in 2016. In some cases, the sentiment is worse today. Record high number of Americans, they don't trust the media at all. That number has steadily increased since 2018. Much of the sentiment dip is driven by Democrats and independents whose collective trust in media has plummeted 18 and 13 percentage points, respectively, from their 2018 peaks.
How could anyone trust the mainstream media? Like, how is that even possible? Now it's like, the crime is going crazy in the country, right? Like, there's a ton of crime happening to the point where instead of actually solving the crime issues, they're just raising the bar as to what a crime is in a lot of these woke states like California. They're just saying, instead of trying to fix the shoplifting issue, they're just saying, oh no, it's not shoplifting, it's not a crime, or it's not a felony, or whatever it is, unless you steal over $999. So as long as you're below $1,999, you're fine. Absolutely it's nutty. And then people like Joy Reid and CNN, if you say the crime is going up in Chicago, they'll just straight up say, no, it's not. It's like, okay, the numbers say it is, and yet you're bringing up these numbers that every other source refutes, and you're saying that the crime is not going up. So it's like, how can you possibly trust the media, trust the mainstream media? How is this number not 0% trusting the mainstream media? They constantly lie, and it's not just the left, it's Fox News too. They lie too, a lot less, but the leftist media and mainstream media in general constantly lie. It's not about truth with them. It's just about pushing their propaganda, pushing their agendas. How is this number not 0%? Does anyone out there watching this video trust mainstream media? A singular person? I would venture to guess, I would put money on the answer being no. Nobody trusts mainstream media out there.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that the polarization that we're experiencing with the American electorate is reflected in how the media conducts itself. I think depending on what you're watching, you will get only half of the story. So I think that's definitely true of some of the more new media outlets, independent outlets. They cater to a very specific portion of the audience, very specific portion of the electorate. And I think Americans are increasingly realizing, okay, I might be in an ideological bubble depending on what kind of news I'm consuming. So you have that. Then on a more corporate level, if you want to put it that way, corporate media, legacy media, I mean, they've gotten so many things wrong over the years.
They haven't gotten them wrong. They've straight up lied about them. And I'm not saying that, the end all be all solution is watch channels like Patrick Bet David's or like the Young Turks with Ana Kasparian or like Justin Reloaded. I'm not saying that at all, because a lot of YouTubers, a lot of channels, a lot of independent journalists or, just creators in general, they fall victim to audience capture. And that's for leftists and right wingers, they fall victim to audience capture. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say that I'm like more right leaning and everybody is trying to run away from mainstream media. All these right wingers are running away from mainstream media. And then they come to me. Let's say I'm like the Ben Shapiro or whatever, just hypothetically. Well, if all these right wingers are coming to me, I start saying some right wing stuff. And every time I say right wing stuff, I get a positive response from my audience, and my audience keeps growing. I keep making more money. What am I going to naturally do? Keep going more towards the right. I'm going to keep going more towards the money and to the positive responses, the positive feedback loop, instead of searching for truth. So always, whenever you're watching, like, don't get too caught up in, I watch this person and I get all my information. I get the truth from this person. Because a lot of these people are caught up in audience capture, for sure. I've fallen victim to it before too. I have to constantly fight against it. And I say things that you guys get mad at me about because I refuse to just say things that I know that you're going to respond positively to. That doesn't help anything. Yes, I'm trying to grow the channel. Yes, I want to get positive response from my audience, of course. But I'm also trying to do my part to tell the truth, or at least search for it a little bit more. And I think that responsibility should be on the creators, but as the audience as well. More importantly, the audience. You guys need to make sure that you're watching people from all different perspectives and not just get caught up in watching one person or two people, and that's where you get all your information from. Because a lot of them fall victim to this audience capture stuff. So you're just going to be back in the same situation as if you were watching mainstream media. So I just wanted to say, be careful about that too. The end-all be-all solution is not, I'm just going to watch YouTubers because they always tell the truth. Obviously, that's not the case, right?
And I think that all of those mistakes add up in people's minds, and it leads to distrust. So I'll give you an example that I think you guys are probably definitely going to agree with, but then I'll also talk about it in the context of some of the stories that I got wrong because I relied on legacy media. So in the lead up to the Mueller report, if you were consuming the New York Times, NBC, if legacy media was what you relied on for your information, you were under the impression that without question, the Mueller report will prove that Donald Trump had colluded. There was a big conspiracy between Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and Russia. The report did not bear that out. And it was just, I just felt like I was misled by a lot of that reporting. I felt like a sucker for buying that reporting. So that already was like a major hit when it came to my trust in corporate media.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Legacy media. Then I saw the way they treated Cenk Uygur when he ran for Congress. The lies they told about him were outrageous. And I was like, oh my God. I don't know what to believe from them if they are willing to literally take an interview he did with David Duke. That was a super heated interview. Cenk was not friendly to him. I mean, they took a sarcastic comment that Cenk made in the context of that interview, and they reported it as if he was like he wasn't sarcastic, like he meant what he said. And you go back and you watch that interview, you watch that statement, and you're like, no, it's very obvious he's being sarcastic here. So you start losing trust as these, I don't even want to say mistakes. I feel like in some cases, some reporters have an agenda, and their agenda becomes clear in their misreporting.
Intentional.
Now, I don't think that's always the case. I don't think that's the case the majority of the time.
I do. I think it's the case the majority of the time. I think most of the time these people have their agendas, and it doesn't matter. The truth does not cross their mind. Searching for truth, trying to tell the truth, none of that crosses their mind. What crosses their mind is, what are the higher ups telling me to do? Number one. And then what crosses the higher ups mind is, what can we do to make more money? That's it. And obviously they're getting paid off by people, or they're also a victim of audience capture like CNN and MSNBC, where only leftists watch those shows. So what are they going to do? Go to the right and start pandering to right wingers? No, they're going to keep going further and further left and see how much more money and audience they can get. That's it. So I don't think this is, I think it's hardly ever mistakes. I don't think that they're accidentally giving us misinformation. I think they're giving us misinformation on purpose. It's always calculated, in my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree.
But when I look at the stories that I got wrong during the COVID era, right, and mostly culture war related stories, it's because the media intentionally, and I'm going to say intentionally, omitted incredibly important details of those various controversial stories. The Kyle Rittenhouse story, perfect example of that. I got that story wrong because I relied on corporate media. And look, I have to hold myself accountable, so I'm not saying that to place blame or transfer the blame onto others. I should have done my due diligence and I should have gone out of my way to read from reporters that might have a different perspective. I didn't do that. And now I've learned to really go out of my way to understand the arguments made on all sides. But if you are relying on one news source, or if you are under the impression that the media outlets that have been around forever are the most credible, the most legitimate, and the most accurate, you will be misled. You really do have to have a healthy, diverse media diet in order to get a—
You really do. That's a huge problem that people have on the right as well. This is, by the way, this is huge that Ana Kasparian's even saying this. Like, this is very rare for leftists to say things like this. So that's good. Gives me a little bit of hope that people can come from the left and see the light. But, you know, this is still very, very rare for a leftist to say anything along the lines of this. So it's cool to see. But she's completely right. Everybody needs to have a healthy media diet. You need to watch people from all different perspectives. I watch people like Destiny, not because I agree with hardly anything that Destiny says, but I think Destiny is like a rational, he has a lot of rational opinions that are kind of like polar opposites to my opinions. I like to see how he reasons his way into things. You know, if somebody is able to reason their way into an idea or logic their way into an idea, then I don't hold them against their idea, their opinion. It's these people that are totally irrational, like Joy Reid and Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, and these types of people on The View and on CNN and stuff that I can't stand because they have no logic or reason behind the things that they say. But if there's someone like Destiny, I don't agree with hardly anything the guy says, but he lays out his logic and reason on how he comes to these conclusions. So I can appreciate that. And it's good to consume people who you disagree with because you're able to see the other side of things and you're able to either realize, oh wait, I might not be as right as I thought I was on this certain thing. Let me reevaluate and look into the facts. Or you're able to, see the other side and it solidifies further. Oh wait, I understand your logic and how you got there, but I still completely disagree and I am completely right on this because of the XYZ. And whenever you get confronted with information that is, by the way, like once again, reasoned into that information or that opinion, it forces you to confront your own logic and reason on how you came to your conclusion. And a lot of times, people have no logic and reason on how they came to their conclusion. Their favorite content creator just told them, this is the opinion that you should have, and they just adopted that opinion. So it is very important what Ana Kasparian is saying, make sure you have a healthy and diverse media diet. You have to. It's something that so many people struggle with. They don't have that. And that's going to kind of do it there. I thought this was a great clip here from Ana Kasparian. I don't want to drag it on too long, but I thought it was great from Patrick Bet-David to kind of put her, not force her into a corner, but definitely got that out of her. Because we can all tell that Ana Kasparian is going in that direction. So Patrick Bet-David kind of like pushed her and was like, let's hear more about this. And she just came out and said things that I haven't heard a leftist say in a very long time. Like truly haven't heard a leftist have that kind of humility to say that I've been brainwashed by the media. I was wrong on Kyle Rittenhouse, on 2020 stuff, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole Patrick Bet-David and Ana Kasparian clip.